Welcome to the fifth installment of the Asterisk Years interviews. My name is Graham Wilson, and joining me, of course, the man behind this entire effort, the green and white writer, Mr. Paul Larkin. Paul, how are you?
Well, fine. Let's get on with it for the people who have been listening.
All right, let's
take what's happened to people.
All right, for those of you who are listening back on the podcast, we have gone through an entire, almost halfway through the show, and the entire thing just went tits up. For whatever reason, Skype's cutting out. So we're going to redo this, and for those who are listening in live previously, we apologize for the issues. We were trying to get it sorted out now. We think we're back on, and we got this fixed. So we're going to pick up from the beginning and talk about the audiobook for the Asterisk Years, which you released around the holidays, and just want to get a sense for what the feedback has been and the response to the audiobook.
The feedback's been fine. It's been, there've been no any bad reviews. So it's a growing thing. It's not sort of one of the things where you can, people are just going to download it, boom, and then, listen to it or anything like that. It's went really well. It was a good professional job done by Richard and all the people that were involved and all that kind of thing. I think the price was good. So it's only $4.99. It was, it was never intention to make money. The intention was to try and top up the fund to help fund the documentary. So on that basis, it worked well. It's still selling, a few minor issues with people forgetting to download stuff and all that kind of thing. But apart from that, it's been pretty good, aye.
And it's the type of thing where people, if they've read the book and they download the audiobook, it's a nice supplement. That there's some additional information that's put in there, and so many contributions from people all over the world as well.
Yeah, it's well, it is. I mean, the point of this project was always to, put a few of the smoking guns in the start, then supplement a few of the things for the audiobook, and then throw a few more smoking guns in the documentary itself. So. We made there's a few hidden extras on the audiobook and stuff like that, and hopefully people can realise that even if they've got the book, it's a worthy add-on to it.
Yep, absolutely. Now, let's get into the documentary. The trailer is in process just now, forthcoming. But in making this documentary, I mean, this is a new medium for you. Going to video now is the next step, and further raising the awareness, across so many different levels of the cheating that went on for so long with Rangers. And what are the challenges with this medium? Going to video, a lot more moving parts involved, I would assume.
The challenge is mostly money. It's very expensive to do. Because you need to make it good. It can't be some half-assed amateurish production, because that defeats the purpose. The other challenges are, you need to have the skills and get the right skill set people involved. You need to have the balls to see it through, because you're going to get flack. You're going to get put under pressure by the head of the establishment. This has already happened to some people. And you're just going to deal with all sorts of different issues, for egos to prima donnas to all that kind of thing. But the goal, of course, is to get the film out and to get the kind of vibe over and the message over that, this is what happened, this is what's been continuing to happen, and this is what they're trying to make happen again.
Now, when you're trying to bring this to light, obviously you have vendors, you have venues that you're trying to line up, and places where you're going to stage some of this footage. What are some of the roadblocks that have been thrown out in front of you in the process of making this?
Well, somebody who was close to the project really let us down badly last week, which was hurtful for a lot of people, myself included, trusting somebody who just basically fucked us. So that was horrible. The other thing is, I spoke to a prominent Glasgow cinema this week. Spoke to a woman I've never spoke to in my life, and she said, I was expecting this call. What? And then she's like, this is about the David Murray film. And, so that straight away you kind of think, all right, dark arts, dark forces, whatever you want to call them, are at work. So, these are things that you kind of have to prepare yourself for. I'm prepared for it, because I've been put on up with this now, pretty much since I dropped the first video way back in August, Graham. So, on that basis, these are the kind of obstacles that you face. But at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, I'll take this film anywhere. Well, we'll get venues in Glasgow. We'll get people in the venues. We'll show them. We'll make them. realise what's happened and all that kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, these challenges, I mean, it's like, it's like losing someone last week who was part of the project. I mean, these parts are really minuscule in the wider sense, apart from the fact that, losing a film editor or something like that, it's not really a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You try and sort of tell that to people, and it's a bit first world-ish, isn't it, really? So, on that basis, the real challenge is to get this story into the mainstream. Now, it's slipping in. I've seen parts of the Asterisk Years appear in broadsheet newspapers. I've heard it discussed on Sports Sound and all that kind of thing, without naming it, of course, because, they didn't want to... and this is film this is definitely the film they do not want you to see, but we intend to make it the film that you must see.
Of course. And that's an interesting element as well. The fact that parts of your book are being lifted and put into the wider stream media. I mean, you talk about the broadsheets and then some of the call-in shows referring to the points in your book. That's got to be validating, on a certain level. I mean, in spite of the fact that you don't get the credit, they're essentially doing your work for you.
That's my goal. That's my personal goal. I'm never going to get the credit, and as I said before, if you see an article that refers to a book and a kind of, I never used to agree with this or whatever, then you can guarantee it's a fluff piece to promote the book. That's never going to happen to me. Or a journalist I know, I've never once said to any of them, could you do something? I could easily have some nonsensical thing where I would pretend that I never spoke to the Sun in a story and then have the author who was not available for comment, meanwhile they're promoting the book like fuck. A prime example of that was the film The Wee Man, with Paul Ferris, the gangster. I know he's not really a thing in America, but the day of the release of that film and the premiere was going to be on, the Sun ran a front page story saying that he was banned for the screening. Oh. And people read that in shops and go, that's terrible, it's his film. Mere dialed in people will say, well, now everybody in Scotland knows that film's out this weekend.
Right.
That's the purpose. I've never asked anybody, there's not a journalist in Scotland that could come on this show or anywhere and say, he's been trying like hell to get us in in the book. Nothing like that at all. We didn't need the media. We will succeed over the media because, let's face it, the media was part of the problem, a small part, and certainly nowhere near as a lot of people think they were. Because I would always say, people, but the media, they must have done this, they must have done that, and that kind of thing. I always say, who do you think's more powerful, the Daily Record or the Edinburgh establishment? I'm going to go with the Edinburgh establishment.
Sure. Yeah, no question. And you bring up, sort of the dark arts and some of the challenges, where people are already clued in almost, before you even think about it. You mentioned the cinema and bringing people into the film and getting let down. But how much of who you're bringing in, to this project, it's such an important project. How much of that aspect does it come down to trusting people? And obviously, it's not a sense of trusting people as though they're playing both sides of the fence. I mean, people that are going to be involved with you, that they're good Tims, but when they're involved with such a massive project, sometimes it's hard to keep it, close to the vest. People want to talk about, I'm working with Paul on this and that can be a challenge. Can it not?
It can. It's an enormous challenge, actually, Graham, because, as I say, the things that we require to be involved with this project is to bring a skill set that can add something to the film or to the PR or whatever, and the other aspect is balls. If you have one of them, then really what we need, if we were to pick out of the two, is balls, because the skills you can learn or you can be useful in certain things. Now, what people will realise is that the people that I've approached very discreetly thus far will be people who I think are like that. There are other people who are going to be approached primarily in the Glasgow area, and I'm not even going to mention their name, but one of them just texted me in the hour, so he'll be listening, and he'll be one of them, let me tell you that's for sure. Now, what the aspects of that is simple. See when people, say you walk into a pub and there's somebody in a pub and somebody says, stay away from that person, he's bad news. I'm normally magnetic towards them because what I see there is character. And I didn't just mean being a character, I mean actually having character.
Right.
That's important because, this is the Edinburgh establishment we're taking on here.
Right.
Now, I've tried to explain who the Edinburgh establishment are and what they do. But what the reality is, of course, is that they are the most powerful people in Scotland. Mm-hmm. To the Murrays, to the Grossharts, to the judges, to the police, to all these aspects, right? And here is me, some fanny for the scheme, saying, I'm going to fucking expose you. Mm-hmm. So let's kind of sort of look into the future and say, perhaps they might not like that, and so that way, and that when the shit does hit the fan and the flag does fly and all that kind of thing, I think for me personally, and I've said this to other people that are involved already, that it's a good idea to have these people who you perceive as being a head case or a loudmouth or that in the trenches beside you, because let me tell you, a lot of these people are the people you want beside you in the trenches.
Definitely.
And they've got something to say. They've got character. They've been round the block a few times. They know the score. Mm-hmm. It rips away at them. You see the debates that go on Twitter and all that kind of thing, and sometimes it goes way, way, way beyond the pale. But if you strip it back, the common denominator between both arguers is passion. And I want that, because it's with that passion, that's the last thing to go. You know what I mean? That's the thing that keeps us going. It keeps us pushing. We've had a pretty hard week with this film in the last couple of weeks, whatever, but the passion keeps us going. That's why we do it. You know what I mean? It's because we're not looking for trophies. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've ordered my suit for the Oscars next year. But, we're doing this. At the end of the day, we just want to get the story out. Right. People who know me, I am no a vain person. Christ almighty, look at me. How could I possibly be? I'm an overweight. Now, the problem with that is you'll get people who will snipe at it. I mean, I've said before, there's 2 or 3, 4 Celtic supporters out there who happily abuse me at every opportunity and, chastise everything I do and everything I say and all that kind of thing. I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. I really didn't. It's no nice. I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's never going to supersede the project. And, who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, what I always say to people is, the book that I sold the most of was the By Any Means Necessary book, right? Now, I think that was because that had a story that, it was a bit of a cult thing. It sort of found its audience and went around, and loads of people who read that were like, I can relate to exactly what you're saying here. I've been through similar things, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
Then, a year later, released the Asterisk Years. In that year, I didn't go to being Paul Larkin to James Joyce. I didn't become this phenomenal writer in that year. The story is the most important aspect to it. And in that respect, that's why that sold astronomical amounts compared to other books that I've sold. Mm-hmm. It's because it's a story.
Right.
So people, I mean, I love the fact, I mean, I had one person point out somebody had a right go at me on a podcast and then proceeded to use all the information I'd put in the book. Believe it or not, that's fine. All right, maybe I didn't want the abuse, but still, as long as information's gone out there, that's fine. So that these are the main challenges. But with the right people beside us, the Bandy Brothers, I think it's 19, if I remember rightly for psychology. I think 19 is the ultimate Bandy Brothers. I'd like to put together that kind of team to see this through.
Larkin's 19. Danny Ocean had 11. Paul Larkin has 19.
No.
Fantastic. One of the key elements to bringing this story to light, to bringing the characters that were at play and the relationship together are the venues. You talk about showing where, the Angus Grossarts and the David Murrays of the world live, and Charlotte Square and so on and so forth. And a key part of this documentary, as you've described in the past, is going to these venues and filming and showing people, giving people the visual, that they read about in the Asterisk Years, the audiobook or the written word. There's got to be a certain level of anxiety, though, in trying to make that happen and trying to go and film, these places and getting the lighting right and watching your back for, the authorities or whatever. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, that's that's guerrilla filmmaking, you know what I mean? And so what you talk about in terms of quality and lighting and sound and all that, you kind of didn't really give a fuck about that as long as you didn't get killed, That's basically the pretext there.
Seems reasonable.
Which is why most of that filming's already been done, I'm pleased to say, because I wanted to get the hard stuff out the way first.
Yeah.
I wanted to illustrate just where these people are. I'm not saying that I was in people's gardens or anything like that, but that doesn't mean to say we want to be doorstepping them either. I'll say that.
Right.
But I wanted to give people a visual of this thing because this is a world within a world, and I think there's no point in telling people about it unless you actually show them. And I'm sure I know one person already, and again, these are the kind of layers that come out, and it can take months to happen, who read the book and said, "Oh, I'm outside one of the addresses now." I thought, "Oh God, here we go." I'm going to be an accessory after the fact, orange jumpsuit, Guantanamo Bay.
Here come the subpoenas.
And he just went, no, he said, the book and, the address, noticed it was close, had a look, fucking hell, and see what you mean, this, that, and next thing. And that's good. I want these bastards to feel a wee bit under pressure, a wee bit fucking threatened, because they're quite happy to do that to us anytime they feel like it. So I wanted to get, and it was interesting because subsequently, since the end of production of the audiobook and the start of the filming of the documentary, our friend Angus Grosshart's tried to reinvent himself a wee bit. And one for people to look up now has done a company called, wait for it, drum roll please, Charlotte Street Partners. Now, I don't know where he got the name Charlotte or if he's even heard the Charlotte Fakeover, but interesting aspects coming out of that. We tip book for you. One of the people on his board of directors, and this is a media company. Well, I don't know what the fuck a media company does, quite frankly. Does that mean that Hail Media is a media company?
I think it might. And
that therefore we're going to be sitting with Angus and his crew, sipping lattes and fucking, But one of his partners, and it's a woman, so it's not a female partner, is the basis of, her name is Susan Ward. Who is Susan Ward, a.k.a. Susan Nimmo? Who is Susan Nimmo? Married to Blair Nimmo. What did Blair Nimmo do? He liquidated Airdrie. Why did Airdrie get liquidated? Because David Murray wouldn't agree a CVA. So you can see the tangled web they continue to weave. The backhanders and the back scratching still goes on to this kind of day. And as I said, I talked about the 19 people. These are the people I want to put together to make life just that wee bit uncomfortable for these people to say, see if you try and fuck us again, we're ready.
Yeah, fantastic. And there's so many people behind this, that have been working with you behind the scenes. And we believe in this message, this story. And we believe in you. We believe in, the fact that you're not going to rest and you're not going to release this until it's absolutely perfect. That there's an element of Michael Moore in this, where, he had the project with Fahrenheit 9/11 and, the Bowling for Columbine, where, there were books turned into documentaries that really, changed perspectives. I mean, it really, informed people that didn't have that awareness prior. And, I think that's what's so exciting about this project and what you're describing here, giving people the visual, it allows them to go back. And if they read the book again, it gives them a different spice or a different sense for what they're reading, and an additional sort of level of awareness so they can understand it even better, which is in my mind, I'm looking forward to so much. You're giving us some revelations here, which are very interesting. And that's exciting in its own right. What other sort of new stuff is going to be in this? We saw some new stuff in the audiobook that wasn't previously in the book itself. Yeah. We're expecting, with the documentary here, some new additions into it. Tell us some of that if you can.
Yeah, well, I can reveal some stuff about your good friend Bill Miller. I can reveal why he why he basically didn't save Rangers Old Co.
He couldn't find an incubator, or was
he what I think is quite funny, and obviously I'm not going to reveal the whole story, but a Celtic supporter is involved, is that he actually had the money to do it. I find that quite funny, because when this kind of conveyor belt of jokers that we've had come onto the scene since, that guy actually had the money to save them.
Yeah,
he was persuaded to not bother. And I fucking love that. And I found the guy that done that. So that'll be there. Second of all, something I've illuminated and illustrated on this programme numerous occasions, that I firmly believe that David Murray would eventually be seen as the guy who ran Craig White. I think we've got the evidence now that'll show that. And I think that's huge. Because, as we talk about asset sales and, will he come back and all that, the kind of things. The question is, how do you come back if you've never actually been away? Now, on that basis, the question I know you're going to ask, because you might have asked it before, is how does the toxic person like Murray come back? Well, as I say, a hypothetical scenario I would paint would be that what you would do, being toxic, would be to put in a series of jokers who completely fuck up the new version of the club that you destroyed yourself, and you'd get fans' mindset to the point where they're begging you to come back. That's what I would do. Whether David Murray's tried that, well, we'll let the listeners decide, Graham.
Wow. That is a very interesting stuff there. There's so many elements to what you've uncovered in the Asterisk Years, going back to, as we've described in the past in talking about the book, the fact that, the Kellys and the Whites and the old board, if you want to refer to them, for all of their faults, the David Murray regime was just as corrupt, or they were not corrupt. I guess that's not the greatest word, but they were just as inept. Yet they were given free rein to destroy Celtic and to put themselves up on high through all sorts of different measures. Tell us a little bit about, how you're going to be, uncovering and bringing that element to life. The different schemes and the different methods that they used, and especially after Fergus came on. I mean, they had to up their game a lot more after that, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, when you say up their game, they have to up their credit line is what they have to do. David Murray had an elaborate sort of scheme that he used where he could basically say or do whatever he felt like it and nobody would notice. We managed to unlock that.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite the Enigma box, but it wasn't far off it, because he made an absolutely crucial error in his information. And so suddenly this was our catching lightning in a bottle moment, because you're reading stuff and it really means jack shit until you actually know who it is that's sending it, and then holy fucking shit goes through your mind.
Yeah.
And that's something that really, was a huge moment for us, because it was like, oh my God, we've got the bastard, basically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a scary start. That was a scary thing as well, because you're like, you're through the looking glass at that point. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, we need to, we're going to jump down the rabbit hole here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll give you a wee example. This is just a wee tickly, and this before we get on to another big smoking gun. But here's a wee example, right? This is a communique that David Murray sent out to various high-ranking members, like, in 2011, in May, to people like Ali and Walter and, all these people that we never have to talk about their second names.
Right.
Right, and I'll just read this to you. 20 years ago, Rangers won 3 in a row. This year, we have won 3 in a row. 20 years ago, our manager left and the number 2 stepped up. Graham Souness for Walter Smith. This year it'll be Walter Smith for Ali McCoist. 20 years ago, a Rangers striker that used to play for Celtic left the club, Mo Johnston. This year, Kenny Miller left the club. 20 years ago, Rangers won the League Cup 2-1 in extra time v Celtic. This year, Rangers won the League Cup in extra time 2-1 v Celtic. Who knows what will happen next year? Now, clearly, he was meaning the fact that 20 years ago, they went on to win 9 in a row.
Right.
What we know happened the next year, of course, is they died.
Exactly.
I thought that was quite funny. So, that's the kind of thing, we'll try to get that. So, we're really alienated. Right, Craig White's going to be in the documentary. I can reveal that. Good guy that he is. There were pictures recently, in Scotland. He was shopping in Tesco in Inverness. I don't know about you, but if I was a billionaire, I wouldn't shop in Tesco. Like, I shop in Tesco now, so that kind of shows you that. So we'll have loads of kind of stuff like that, and a couple of more smoking guns as well, Graham.
And you have some interesting information about Craig White's relationship with this Sevco board as well, do you not?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, what's interesting about these people is the kind of caliber that they are. You know, when you look into people like Murray and Grosshart and Lord Nimmo Smith, these are guys that made it to the top of their game, however by any means necessary, basically, and were able to use that power and influence and wealth to basically do what they wanted to, right? To become respectable members at the top of the Edinburgh establishment and that kind of thing. Then you cut to people like Sandy Easdale and Imran Ahmed and all that, and these guys, they're not even remotely at that level and never ever will be. And that's kind of where they find themselves now. Now, as I said to you before, I've given you the reasons why I think that is. But certainly Craig White, I believe, we'll be able to show Craig White in a different light and give you more of a sense of the character of Craig White, and talk and also show how what his relationship was with Celtic, which might shock a few people as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Drawing the connection there, and especially given where we are in the current time, where the mainstream media has been proven not to be a credible source for basically anything. So people are searching for any sort of underlying data that could point them to what's truly happening. And I think that's what's so exciting about this. There's so many connections. And what you're doing with this is really leading the way. I mean, as we've talked about, the media coming out and lifting a lot of your material. I mean, do you think that there's?
Sorry.
My question was, do you think there's going to be sort of a groundswell at some point? Once you release this documentary, there's going to be exposure and distribution to more people than just read your book. I mean, more and more people are going to have access to it. Do you think there's going to be a groundswell to where the mainstream media almost has to lift the lid on a lot of this?
I don't know. I really couldn't answer that. I mean, the mainstream media's common tactic with anything like this is total and utter fucking apathy, and hope that it goes away and goes under the carpet and all that kind of thing. What I would say is, I wouldn't say I'm leading the way, far from it. I'm just providing, people come towards me and have information and all that kind of thing, and I can then have got the platforms like this to come out and sort of put it out there and that, because perhaps they might know. And that's kind of what happened with the Asterisk Years, is once the Asterisk Years come out, that started a chain reaction of people coming forward who were able to provide different bits of it. Now, I know, Graham, for example, that there are some people out there who really didn't care about the Edinburgh establishment or the Bank of Scotland or the Royal Bank of Scotland or anything. They care about Celtic. They care about the effect that Murray had on Celtic and the plans he had on Celtic and all that kind of thing. Now, the most beautiful part of this thing for me thus far, and there will be more stuff, I'm not revealing everything just now, but the most beautiful aspect of this documentary for me at this moment is, if you remember when I started to write the Asterisk Years, it was actually going to be a book about the cheating in the last 10 years that then Lord Nimmo Smith found him guilty for and then decided they never had any sporting advantage.
Right.
That's where I was until a source came forward and so on and so on and so forth. One of the things that we've been able to uncover, and this is absolutely crucial, is that we believe we've found the smoking gun of the EBT scheme, which proves 100% they knew what they were doing, they knew it gave them a sporting advantage, and they did not care.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that we'll be able to show in the documentary that blows away the complete and utter lie that Lord Nimmo Smith tried to put on the public and the world by saying they never gained a sporting advantage. We have on record an admittance from that regime that proves they knew it was a sporting advantage. And that, to me, is the essence of everything that I try to do with this. We know these are bastards. Mm-hmm. We know what they were doing. But if we can't prove it, we get labelled paranoid and conspiracy nuts and all that kind of thing.
Right.
We can prove that they knew the EBT scheme. I mean, look, I know that sounds ridiculous because anybody listening to this will be thinking, well, of course they done it to get a sporting advantage. And we can all say, well, why else would they do it if it wasn't for a sporting advantage? But it's easy to say that. When you provide evidence, and we have the evidence that proves from their lips to God's ears, they knew why they'd done it. And the most galling thing about it, Graham, Lord Nimmo-Smith seen exactly the same evidence and still gave that horrendous quote about no sporting advantage.
Yeah, he let it go. In spite of all, like you say, in spite of all of the evidence, he let it go. And there are connections, between him, as you've laid out, between him going through the elaborate network that is the Edinburgh establishment. It goes from 20 years ago when David Murray was referring to in his letter, all the way through to present day, and it connects through to the media. It's all interconnected.
Well, as I illustrated in the book, Lord Nimmo-Smith is a neighbour of David Murray. Lord Nimmo-Smith isn't a football guy. Lord Nimmo-Smith isn't a Rangers guy. But Lord Nimmo-Smith is an establishment guy. And when the establishment needed a judge, Lord Nimmo-Smith came running. One of the things I came across just to give a kind of insight into Lord Nimmo-Smith was a conversation that Lord Nimmo-Smith had in private with a prominent SPL board member, where he chuckled about the fact that Charles Green's Rangers had lost a penalty shootout in the Ramsden's Cup to Queen's Park Rangers. So that's the level of kind of intellect you're dealing with this guy when it comes to football. but as I said before, Lord Nimmo-Smith knew they gave a verdict that would allow the charade to go on. And I tell you, the charade, it extends. One of the things Stuart Regan got abuse for continuously was saying, if there's no Rangers in any league in this country, we have widespread mayhem in the streets. And people laughed at that. I would ask anybody now listening to that, do you honestly believe that was a lie? And I'll tell you why. 2 guys got arrested at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago. There was hundreds of people outside the Sheriff Court of Glasgow last week. Caused absolute mayhem. Police, all sorts of riot vans, this, that, and next thing. Where'd you read about that in the paper?
Yeah.
The only reason I found about it is because one of them came from the north of Ireland and it made the press over there.
That's amazing. That's how you get the information.
So that is the bottom line in all this. I mean, they took a decision to stop that.
Right.
Now, people might say, well, what else would they have done? That's given into mob rule. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why people like myself and others, who stand up and say their piece, yourself, all that kind of thing, is that we could easily just stop now, and that gives into mob rule, and then the mob wins, and then everything's, well, we're in too deep now, kind of thing. And I want to show certain supporters that we, to feel as vindicated as possibly, to show that everybody, because remember the name of the book, the project, the Asterisk Years. The asterisk is to say that every single trophy they won in the Murray era should have a big asterisk beside it, just as Barry Bonds baseball does in the Hall of Fame. And it's to denote one thing, as you well know, Graham, this was gained by cheating.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And the more light we can shine on it, absolutely the better. Paul, you talk about so many people being involved with it and gathering up. Larkin's 19. Let's just call it that. Let's give it a name. Let's give it an identity. There is some trepidation though. About getting involved with a film. It's a bit different than even an audiobook or sitting in your living room and putting, words to paper where, you're asking people to come involved in a film, that, requires them to be out in a more of a public environment. And there's some hesitancy, there's some anxiety when you ask people to do that. What do you tell people, who may have some reservations about getting involved in this book, for whatever reason? How do you put their mind at ease? What do you tell them?
You know what? I've never really had to encounter that. I think that comes to what talking about the 19 people, or whatever. I mean, that was obviously just a joke with the Bandy Brothers. But if I approach the people, and I'll be approaching, as I said, other people soon, I like to think I'm approaching the right people who will not go, oh my God, I didn't want to be sort of involved in this. And I know there are people in my life who, I regard as friends and all that kind of thing, who the minute any of this thing comes up, they kind of go, please don't ask me to be involved in this. Mm-hmm. Because, I've been through some horrible stuff, as have many others and all that kind of thing. I mean, I wrote yesterday about, our good friend Brian Limond, who was, jailed for abuse. Now, Brian Limond was a serial abuser of many people.
Sure.
I think that's important for people to know that.
Myself included.
Yes, and he never used to, just call me any names or anything like that, because he used to think he's a really intelligent guy. I mean, I'm sure we've all realised that he is. And he used to say The Last Pearl Diver, which for people who haven't read it, is a novel that goes from March 1993 to March 1994. So Limond reads the book because he buys all my stuff for some fucking reason, and he says, "Oh, I loved the book, loved the novel, this, that, but I hated the ending." Which, of course, the novel itself is about a misery a sales spotter goes through right to the end when they die. So that was his razor sharp wit, just in case anybody missed that.
Yeah.
So that was The Last Pearl Diver, which was a year ago, and I mentioned it to Steph O'Neill at the book launch, and she said, "Oh, he made me Take of the Week on his show, as he'd done to other people." And I never knew anything about that, and that had happened, and she'd got absolutely merciless abuse because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, what did you do about it? And I was, well, nothing. I just kind of took it and moved on. And that's when I kind of think, right, well, there's somebody that won't buckle.
Right, exactly.
Or start, ranting and raving about it. It'll just be, and that kind of thing. And so that's the kind of people that I look for in that sense. And at the end of the day, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we need to. What I want to bring is closure to this whole thing, and I think the documentary, that's one of the goals. I mean, the documentary has that goal. It has the goal of, as it being a warning to all sales spotters that they are trying to come back. Murray's getting closer and closer. In fact, there is something that I'm going to be doing this week that hopefully bring that more to light as to what they're doing to try and come back and all that kind of thing. But you can see some of the stuff that was in the Asterisk Years is now starting to come to light in terms of future projects he's trying and all that kind of thing. And this is all about trying to get back in the game, about trying to put enough distance between the Toxic Rangers and Sevco so that he can come back with it, like the White Knight, and just try and fucking act like the saviour once again.
Mm-hmm.
And the other aspect is he's trying to get enough money that he can then start doing the same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately, that's all they know, these people. I mean, you've only got to look at example of Hearts this week, who, after years of cheating and overpaying and all that, try and sign a relic for that, the poster boy, for their own version of the Asterisk Years. We have to be on our guard against that kind of thing. And I want this to put this film into the mainstream for the Celtic supporters and by the Celtic supporters, so that we can say to them, if you try this again, we're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such an important body of work, that we're doing, for the purpose that you're laying out, that we are on the precipice of, a return, so to speak, of perhaps, the modus operandi that took place, for all of those years, and we can never go back there. And I'm sure, and I know, I've gotten in touch. People have gotten in touch with me rather on chat and as well as Twitter while we're speaking here, asking how they can get involved, how can they help. Tell us a little bit about, if somebody's listening in and they want to get involved and they want to, lend their hand towards this effort. How do they do that, and what can they do?
Well, we've just launched a thing today, Graham, on the asteriskyears.com, where we're appealing for investors from £100, £50, £25 to £10. When I say investors, you do get something for your money. It's there on the screen. This project has been costed at about £2,500. I've put £1,500 in myself, which came pretty much from the book sales and the audio book sales, because if it didn't come for it, it'd probably have to come for a bank robbery. So that's what I've kind of committed to. What I'm looking to raise is another £1,000 for the people, various different guys, and it's absolutely crucial because, at the end of the day, you can only do so many things on the hoof. You can only call in so many favours. Some things require hard cash.
Right.
Cameras, microphones, editing. I mean, we've got a professional editor on this staff now. Now, he's not doing charity work, you know what I mean?
Right.
But he'll guarantee a quality product, an HD quality product that's cinematic, can go on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I appeal to anybody now, if you're interested in this project and you've got a spare couple of bob and you want to help it and you want to see it on that screen and you want to blast it out into the world, then there are 4 levels of investment. If you go to theasteriskyears.com, you can see how you can help. And it would mean the absolute world to us, because without you, we are nothing, really. And it's all for you that we do this. So that's the first aspect, Graham. The second aspect is, if you think you have the skills or have a set of skills that you can help this project with, then come forward and talk to me. You know, this is not a closed shop. Yes, as you said earlier, Graham, we have to establish levels of trust and things like that, and feasibility and whatever, but it's not a closed shop. We have had some incredible help and stuff in from every corner of the globe. And so in that respect, you know, it's inspiring. What we want is to make this the best thing we can possibly do. I mean, we've had some great help for people who have allowed us to use their music. And I'm talking some really good bands. One of them I can't mention because he said, I'll let you use it, but for fuck's sake, don't tell anybody. And I was like, I'm cool with that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I would never ever reveal that, but let's just say we'll be all together now. The other aspect, as I said, is we want to get people, if you want to come on board, I mean, look, I'm an approachable guy. We've got approachable people here. Didn't be put off by Graham's Twitter rants. He's actually not that bad. You know, if you want to get in touch with Graham, you have to go through somebody else, whatever, it's fine. You know, we're appealing to people now to get involved and make this the best thing we can, because what I would say to any investor who wants to, you know, put in, and as I say, the top rate's £100. We're not asking for millions. You know, I've had people say to me, no, you should ask for this and this for that. I'm not asking for a penny more than we need. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm no, and obviously I'm not making it different levels, even though I know for a fact everybody in America's got a lot more money, Graham. But what I'm saying to you is, here's the victory. Just look at what you'll get for it. But this is what the reality is. The other stuff's all kind of colouring, and it's to try and make, and it's just, you know, if we could give you more, we'll give you more. It's to you to be sitting in that venue, watching that thing on the big screen, and think that you played your part in it, and your name goes up there, and you played your part and helped vindicate the Celtic support and put in another dagger in the heart of the Edinburgh establishment. You know, to me, that's something you can tell your grandkids about. That's something you can be proud of for the rest of your life. You stood up against us. We know this is David and Goliath. We know that. But remember who won in that fight. Exactly.
We still won. And it's a great opportunity, you know, not just for what it's doing just now, you know, not just in terms of raising the awareness for people who might not have had that exposure just yet, but this will stand the test of time. This is going to, you know, stand, like you said, you can show your children. And, you know, when you're talking about this period of time of trepidation, of, you know, the complicity that took place over these past 2 decades, and what was done to expose it, and then to stop it, and then to put Celtic on its rightful place, and to put Scottish football in a more integrity-based place, if that's even possible. You know, that's something that's going to stand the test of time. So it's a great opportunity, you know, to get involved with this, to lend your support, even if it is just financial, you know, so that this can come out and be done, you know, the way that it should be, which, you know, is what we all know is going to take place. I can't wait. I'm so excited, you know, to see it. And, you know, I mean, I think I speak for everybody in saying that. Paul, recently, Archie Wright, a huge inspiration to you, as you've mentioned on the Beyond the Waves show and other podcasts as well. You were at his funeral just recently. He recently passed away. Tell us what he meant to you. Tell us, you know, what the funeral was like, and you know, just sort of expand on that a little bit.
Oh dear! So now I've went from saber rattling to crying. Archie, well, about 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago now, I got a call from Archie's grandson, Mark, who's about a couple of years older than me, and he said, look, I'm coming up to England, you know, Archie's he's dying, like. So, you know, Archie had cancer at the end. I mean, bear in mind, you know, the guy was 91-year-old. They didn't tell him that he had cancer, because they didn't think there was any point. Yeah. Archie lost his wife Nan about 3 years ago, and you know, it was a hot, because Nan was one of these women that you just, you know, absolute heart of gold, and what a lovely woman. Yeah, it absolutely tore him to pieces. And after that, and I was in America at the time, so after that, I'd spoken to Mark, his grandson, and soon I said, people was telling me, there was a guy over from New York who'd been at a Celtic Inverness match in Inverness, and he said, I bumped into a guy that knows you. I said, who? He said, Archie, right? I thought, fucking hell. So I spoke to Mark. I said, Archie still got, goes to Inverness and that. And he said, oh, aye. He said, between you and me, Paul, he says, Celtic's the thing that's keeping him alive,
Yeah.
So, like, okay, fair enough. And then he moved in with Archie's daughter is deaf and dumb, Mark's mother. And she married a guy who's deaf and dumb, God rest him. And he moved in with him, and towards the end and stuff like that. And so you kind of knew it was on the way, So that was that. And then, as I say, Mark got in touch. He said, and so he spoke to us. I said, do you want me to come up? And he said, the problem is he's a bit kind of confused. So I'm not really wanting people to see him like this. And I said, that's completely understandable. So at that point, Archie had been talking about the fact that he said, he's been saying that he can see my nana, and that they're going to go dancing, which was something they enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
And I said, something? He said, when my nana died, which was about 9 years ago, I went to see her at the end. She was telling me she could see Elvis. And, this kind of thing, and I thought, maybe they could, I don't know. I mean, they're moving to the other side, obviously.
Right.
So I went to bed, got up, and Mark says he passed at 6:30 this morning. So I was like, okay. So he was like, look, he says, I need your help to make sure people understand that it's a celebration, the funeral. It's not a sad occasion,
Mm-hmm.
But I think Mark realised himself, it's easy to say that, So there's a bit of time between the death and the funeral to let people come from far and wide and get organised, because he's got family in England, etc. And the funeral was a week past Friday there, and I got there. It was 2 o'clock start. I got there about 1:45, and it was like a who's who of Celtic supporters in Edinburgh through the generations, Graham. It was guys you've not seen for years and all that kind of thing. And so I'm standing chatting away and all that kind of thing, and like you do, you've not seen somebody for ages, and chatting with a guy, Chris O'Neill, who's prominent on Twitter, about things when we went to Cologne and Dortmund and places like that. And I said, you realise you're talking about things that happened 22 years ago, and just laughing about that. And then the kind of cortege came in, and I saw Mark and whatever, and I waved at him and that, and we were sitting in the front row, and it was a humanist funeral, Graham, because Archie was the religious. He was born and raised in the Carlton, and but then his mother died at a young age, and he ended up in care and things like that in Brigton. He got to school in Brigton, and that's how he actually became a Celtic supporter, because he could see the park for his school, and he used to go along, and he just fell in love with the club and stuff like that. So they weren't a religious family, so that was absolutely fine. And so the first song, the first song they played was a song called "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen," which was one that Archie used to sing on the bus. What Archie's best friends were my father and my uncle, and obviously my father's been dead 16 years now. So, but Archie used to always ask me, after the fact and whatever. And Archie's kind of part of the piece was, I said, the song "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen." Now I'm not sure if you're aware of that song, Graham.
Yeah.
But it's it's a long "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen," one of the kind of ballad songs. Mm-hmm. And he'd only sing it when he was drunk, and that was his part of the piece. And my uncle's part of the piece was the much more recognised, the Belfast Brigade. And so there was one time in particular I remember coming back to Aberdeen, which was always a drunken stupor, Archie sung it, and he's on and on and on, and people cried, especially the young team, for Christ's sake. And then Francie's going to get up and sing the Belfast Brigade. It's the same thing every time. They became you could tell, I mean, the white, they think they were steaming drunk, old men, but they were wide as fuck, and so Archie got up and sang "Take You Home Again, Kathleen," and then Francie, when everybody in the whole bus was going to hear him singing the Belfast Brigade, started singing "Three Blind Mice," and it just broke the house down, because it was like, fucking hell, man, So of course you've got 50 guys, steaming drunk guys, on the way back to Tawdry going, "See how they run," oh, that's piss. So they played that, And then the guy who was the kind of humanist guy, I don't know what you call him, he started talking about that. And then Mark I got a beautiful reading, and he's talked about Archie and how much he loves Celtic and all that kind of thing. And he talked about things that Archie used to do, like he met Johan. He invited into the boardroom when he was 88. Somebody had written to Peter Lawwell and they'd arranged it, and Johan Mjalby was there, and Archie says to him, you're a good player, but you remind me of a guy. I don't know if you remember him, Peter Wilson. And Mjalby said, no, I don't remember. When did he play? He said, about 1931, I think. And there was another famous story where one of Mark's big pals was a guy, Chris Jackson. He used to play for Hibs a few years ago, and Archie had badgered him for complimentary tickets, and eventually got him. He said, now remember, whatever you did, didn't jump up if Celtic scored. Needless to say, he scored in the first 5 minutes and they just erupted after the game. It's like, never again, So they did that, and then the next song was the Celtic song, which, I tell you, you could have thrown a stone in any direction. You'd have had a Celtic supporter in the chapel.
Sure.
But it kind of shocked people a wee bit, because it's not something you often hear at a funeral. But then from that, people started to sing it because, that's what you do, don't you? At funerals, you sing hymns and stuff, and that's our hymn. So
right.
We sang it, and it was absolutely brilliant because it really just hit home to me what it's all about, this club. That song tells you what it's all about. We only know there's going to be a show,
Mm-hmm.
And so then his other grandson, Stephen, who I've mentioned in my books as well, got up and he made a really funny speech. And I remember something he said and it really stuck out, which was that he said, every child has a moment in their life when they find out that Santa Claus isn't real. He said, well, that moment in me was finding out that it wasn't actually Archie Wright that sung the Celtic song, it was Glenn Daly,
Yeah.
And it was just, brought the house down and that. And then we had his granddaughter said a few words, and they done the Fields of Athen Rye. And then that was it finished. And as we walked out, we had You'll Never Walk Alone, which, all my family was there, and that was a hard moment for us because that was the place where my father was buried, and that's what we played when, at the end of that, sort of the chapel in there as well. So, that was and so it brought back a lot of memories, even at that time, and we sort of had an end, we cry at the end in that as well. But it was a beautiful celebration for her and tribute to a wonderful man who had a huge influence on my life and who made me the kind of Celtic supporter that I am with his passion. And I must just tell you one story that I said in a blog, which was in 1987. We went down to St Mirren. It was the first year Rangers Old Co went in the league in 9 years, so it was first time in my life I'd ever even known it or even been challenged by it. And Archie had been telling me, "Don't know what about, son? We're going to score 100 goals a day. If we score 3 goals a day, 100 goals for a season. Fuck the Rangers, So fantastic. So it was a beautiful sunny day. And we walked in the ground, and Archie instantly took a dislike to the steward that was standing in front of us. And Archie, by the way, anybody will tell you Archie lived in Edinburgh 60 years, had the broadest Glasgow accent you've ever heard in your life. He said, "Here, Paul, look at that bastard there." I was saying, I was 13, 14-year-old. So I was saying, I said, all right, aye. He said, he's definitely a hun, definitely a hun. So the whole game, Archie's at this. He says, look at his face. He's got a hun face, right? Ugly wee bastard, do you know what I mean? So this goes on the whole game. The game 2 throws. We win 3-2 or 3-1. I can't remember. It was April 87. Somebody can check. I'm sure Brian McClare scored the 100th goal that day. So Archie was absolutely over the moon by this. He told me about it and it happened. And that, as we celebrated the goal, I turned around and seen the steward, and you could tell he was furious about it. And Archie just turned around to him and says, "Here you Humphrey back wee bastard. Fuck your Rangers." Right? He's the guy, And it was just like, oh my God. Bear in mind, Archie had just turned 65 at that point. telling everybody that he was calming down with the football, which then leads you on to the story for 2003 where he got arrested on his way to Seville. And it was just like the police eventually, what was your date of birth?
What was he, about 81-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, well, he was born in 1922. So the police eventually said, you should know better by your age. Let him go, it was absolutely brilliant. But it was a real fitting tribute to a legendary man who made me realise, amongst a select few people when I was a young, impressionable age, that Celtic was something special. And that it was magical, and you should never ever forget that. You should never ever forget what this club is, what it means to so many people, and how much joy it can bring to those people. And at times when I've been pissed off for the club and furious and ranting and raving, that kind of thing, I always used to think about Archie when he would come out, and he was one of the first guys that ever said, he said, if I could watch one thing in my life, Paul, it would be to watch that team run out the tunnel. And it just, that to me, I can totally relate to that. We can all, as Celtic supporters, relate to when you see the hoops emerge for that tunnel.
Yep.
Something magical. And he used to always say, in a hugely, much more stronger voice than I'm going to do, now then the Celtics still are the Tims. That's all he cared about. As long as we're still the Tims, that's all that matters. And so, as I say, it was a beautiful service. It was great to see a lot of people. And his family done him proud, and I was honoured when people talked about it and said, "Well, you're as much part of his family as anybody," and that's how I'll always feel about him and his family, Graham.
And a lot of what you're doing here, with the Asterisk Years, the book and the audio book, and now the documentary, a lot of it is for them, isn't it?
Yes, it's for I mean it's. These are the people that, my father, my uncle, and Archie were the three prominent peer pressure people who made me understand what Celtic were all about. These were people who corrected you if you said Rangers and Celtic. It was always Celtic and Rangers.
Right.
These were people who slapped you across the face if you ever said Parkhead. It was Celtic Park. Yeah. And that's how I was brought up.
Yeah.
And these were the people, my father used to say the same thing. Anytime we got beat, which was never often, despite what people think, he would always put his scarf above his head and say, they're the greatest colours in the world. Never forget that. And I never do, Well, sometimes I maybe actually do. That's probably not true. So it's for those types of people, and it's for all the people who suffered, as I did, through that era. Let's put it to bed because, at the end of the day, you know it, I know it, and they certainly fucking know it, Graham. We are on our way to 10 in a row.
That's it. And I'll speak for all of us. I mean, and them as well. They're all proud of you. They're all, and we're all proud of you and what you're doing. With this effort, it's not easy. What you're dealing with and what you're going through to make this happen. But it's going to be worthwhile in the end, as it is to support Celtic. So, all the best with it. And we're behind you, and we believe in you. What's the time scale? For the documentary coming out and. Just remind, for the folks that are listening in, tell us again, if you want to get involved, if you want to help, how can we help? Give us the background on that.
If you can invest financially up to the value of £100, go to the asteriskyears.com. There's 4 different levels of investment. You get something for every investment. Even if you invest a tenner, you'll get a DVD of the movie, right up to £100, where you'll get, reserve front row seats at the premiere. You'll get an executive producer credit. I mean, Christ, I'll blow you if you want. You know what I mean? It's the first time you've perked up at about 300 shows. Whatever you need, we'll do. Just if you want to be part of it. Secondly, if you have the skills, you've got the balls to get into this. Do it. In terms of time scale, the end of the day, Graham, we've not got anything set in mind. We want to be summer, but we want to make it good. It has to be good first. Now, I'm delighted to say that whilst we were on air, I've actually just done the deal about an hour ago there with a guy who's going to do the editing. That's a professional guy, and that's a massive weight off. So, as I say, out of the dead flower comes a daffodil. And so, at the minute, the target is to have our first cut around about the first week in April. And then kind of go with it for then. But hopefully by that point we'll have a venue and stuff, and we'll have tickets on sale. And the tickets, I think this is really important to say as well, is that if we wanted to be really sort of, I wouldn't say cheeky, but like if we wanted to sort of really just cover our asses, we could have made this 20 quid a head and probably got 100 people to pay it, and that would have been fine. I'm not about that at all, and so therefore the tickets will be on a sliding scale. There will be tickets from wage to unwaged to living wage to minimum wage to student to pensioner to under 16.
Great.
There'll be different scales so that people can afford it. We've got a provisional 12A rating, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, we've no filmed Paul Lee yet. It could shoot up to an 18.
All bets are off.
So there is that, but so that's the time scale. I mean, at the end, we're looking at the summer. Some fun in the sun, hopefully, and we're looking at a premiere in Glasgow. We're looking at a screening in Dublin. We're looking at screenings in America, or people to have the ability to have the screenings in Edinburgh, or places like that, or in America, and then hopefully after that, pretty soon after that, the DVDs will be available, and hopefully streaming as well, so that people can sort of download it and all that kind of thing. And the aspect of the streaming, we want to make that, it's not something that we want to sort of make money out of, because at that point, unless I'm Kevin Smith and $27,000 in debt, which, to be honest, I'd be happy only being $27,000 in debt, then I would hope that we'll be at a point where we didn't need to make money out of it, and that we could tie the streaming into something that would, when you download the thing, it's because you've donated to something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's all in the future. That's all, way down the line or whatever. But that is So, but as I say, we've had a lot of blows, but I think we've got a huge break there with a really good film producer who's got a record of films that people will have heard of, which is good. Mm. So that's fantastic. And as you say, at the end of the day, for the people who support Celtic, this is who it's for. And even if you hate me, and even if you didn't like anything I didn't really care. You wear the same colour of scarf that I do, you'll do for me,
That's it. That's what it comes down to. And, this is brilliant stuff. I mean, we're so proud of you, man. And, just cannot wait, for this to come out. I'm so excited to see it. And I know that a lot of listeners are as well. So for those listening in, theasteriskyears.com, go check it out, and make a donation if you can, and stay updated, on how this is progressing. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll let you get back to...
Just before I say as well, Graham, I mean, I know I've not really mentioned a lot of names of people who have done a lot of sterling work, yourself included. That's something that that'll roll out as we get more things, in the can, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to start naming people who have done great things that ends up somehow inflicting on their lives or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
They know who they are. I've been talking to them religiously, and you know who they are, and there are people out there that have above and beyond thus far.
Sure. But
just need to ask that one wee bit more. If you can invest, it'd be absolutely fantastic. You'll see this film made. You'll be there, big, your name in big lights. And because one of the things that the people who invest £100 will be named as an executive producer at the start of the film, and if we do take day 10 in a row and we do 20 in a row or whatever kind of thing, just imagine your name being up there, showing the people that we stopped. You know what I mean? Showing that you were the part of that kind of thing, and that's really important. And as I say, the next time I speak about this, hopefully I'll be able to speak a lot more stuff. I've got a crucial few weeks. I've got to go away, tie up deals and all that kind of thing. No outside the country, thankfully, but just inside the country. And I've been trying to keep people updated in the Paul Larkin Books group on Facebook run by Kim Petrie. Mm-hmm. And there's other people keeping people updated on the Asterisk Years Twitter, just wee bits and bobs and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's for the Celtic supporters, and I want it to be by the Celtic supporters. So this is where we really need you more than anything. And if you can help us, please do.
Absolutely. It's such a worthy cause. And, like you said, it's something that's going to stand the test of time, and to have, to have the satisfaction of knowing that you contributed and that you helped is, it's an exceptional cause. So, all the best. I know that, it's going to be a fast and furious next few weeks. So, all the best with that. And, we're all behind you, and, we're looking forward to it. So thanks so much for putting up with the technical issues, and we'll let you get back to your day.
But incompetence. There was nothing to do with technical issues.
Thank you for putting up with my technical incompetence.
Can I just say something, by the way?
You can say whatever you'd like.
I've just got a wee bit of advice. I know nobody's listening by now, right? So I just got your advice, right? Never, ever let anybody from Scotland or Ireland know that your wife runs your life. What you do 2 nights ago about, when you were talking about doing this show and then a show tomorrow? Yeah, don't do that.
Well, how much truth do you think that there actually is in that?
100%. That's the point. Everybody else lies about it.
You don't know me.
Or you wear the trousers, do you?
I think there's a partnership. We share the trousers.
Oh, Christ. Let's not go into your sexual proclivities, please.
They're a little big on her, but, hey, she's welcome to them.
But you're a little big. I mean, you're like the world's skinniest man.
That is true. That is true, but I'm quite a bit taller than she is. I'm about 6 foot tall. She's just wee.
Yeah, you're not chatting up a girl now. You're really only about 5'8", I'd say.
All right. Take it easy.
That's the top of it. We'll go in a minute. But the whole beans with a fry-up debate flared up again.
As it typically does. It's something that you can't run away from. This tumultuous issue. We're about to vote, where I say Scotland is about to vote on gaining its independence. And the brimstone issue of the day is beans on the same plate as a fry-up. I'll never know. I'll never know. Listen, I don't mind a bit of beans with my fry-up. I'll you know what? I'm more nervous about making that revelation than I am about my wife's relationship and what I do.
Well, actually, I'll tell you something. Actually, just remembered me when I talked about the funeral. Somebody actually was asking me about you. And it wasn't a guy you would think it would be, dialed into social media.
Was he asking me my address and my hours of work when I typically return home, or my route to work?
When's that prick going to be next in Scotland?
Yeah.
No, he actually asked me if you worked for the government.
I do not.
And I said, why? And he said, because, well, how else is he still alive? I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I don't work for the government, but there is very good reasons why I'm still alive, and I will continue to remain alive, at least until nature decides to call me. I can't stave that off, but
or Yompi, as we better know.
Exactly. I have Yompi, and then I have surface-to-air missiles on the roof of my house.
Listen, who knows what could come from South Jersey? That's what I'd say.
I've been there and I've seen it with my own eyes. Expect anything.
I just hope fucking Yompi fucking takes out Chris Christie soon. I mean politically. I didn't mean to kill him. You know what I mean? But
of course,
because that's just fantastic. Anyway, let's not rabbit on anymore.
Paul, thank you so much. As always, get back to it, and we wish you all the best. And if you want to get in touch with Paul, at PaulLarkin74 on Twitter, and as he mentioned, the Asterisk Years on Twitter as well, theasteriskyears.com. Fantastic forthcoming film documentary that's going to tell us everything. So, Paul, thanks again, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Hail, hail.
Cheers, pal.